Hey folks, this is Chris Crazy House. I'm super excited for the brand new Godzilla movie, so I figured I would sit back and talk about some of my favorite monsters. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm going to be doing a drawing of two of my most favorite monsters, and that's going to be the Incredible Hulk fighting Godzilla, as you see in this picture here. And I'll be drawing that and talking about my top 10 favorite monsters. So let's get into it. Number 10 on my list is the Incredible Hulk. Now, a lot of people just consider the Hulk to be more of a comic book character because that's where he makes his first appearance. But I've always considered him to be more of a monster. And if you look at the early days of Marvel, they used to do all different types of comics. It wasn't just superhero stuff. They did monster books, they did suspense books, they did romance books, they did cowboy books. And the Hulk kind of fit into that monster category, that strange stories. The Hulk is almost kind of a combination of the old Universal version of Frankenstein and the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because you got this small scientist, Dr. Banner, who when he becomes enraged, he turns into the Incredible Hulk. And, I just always loved that idea of going through a metamorphosis and changing. I've always just thought that was a very cool idea, that you can be this little guy and turn into this big monster. And, what young child does not dream of such things? Number 9 on my list is King Ghidorah from the Toho Godzilla movies. I mean, what's not to like about a giant golden dragon with 3 heads that shoots lightning out of its mouth? Just the visual of King Ghidorah is a great thing. He's menacing, but also kind of beautiful in a way. Just the fact that he's covered in gold and looks very elegant with those 3 long necks and the wingspan and everything. What I always liked about him also was he's a great villain for Godzilla. Pretty much Godzilla is pretty much unstoppable when it comes to fighting other monsters, but King Ghidorah always gives him a run for his money. And is like the perfect villain, the perfect foil. And, a lot of times Godzilla would always have to team up with some other monsters to beat King Ghidorah. So you could get a big monster rumble with Godzilla, Anguirus, and maybe Mothra teaming up to fight King Ghidorah. Number 8 on my list are werewolves, or lycanthropes, or however you want to call them, shapeshifters, skinwalkers. And I'm kind of vague with this, not any specific ones. There's some specific ones that I like in certain movies, but I like the werewolves that actually look like monsters, not just a guy that changes into a dog or a wolf. So if you watch movies like Dog Soldiers, American Werewolf in London, the Second Underworld with the character William and some of the Lycans, once again, these monsters, they have that whole thing of changing. That whole metamorphosis is something that I just enjoy seeing. It's something cool that, you have this beast inside you that's just waiting to get out. Number 7 on my list is the alien from the movie Alien. The one that was created by H.R. Geiger. Now, this creature is very unique. The way it's designed is very sleek looking and almost... The original design, if you actually see it, is actually almost in a very erotic setting, but it's a very strange creature. And probably the most original alien that we've ever seen. A lot of people have kind of bit off of it and stolen from it since then, but it was very original for its time. And what's actually kind of weird, and I wouldn't say so much scary for me, but what's always been kind of disturbing for me about the alien is its life cycle. The fact that it implants itself inside your chest and its offspring bursts through your chest. That's very disturbing and is invasive, and like I said, it can be that gives you nightmares or something like that. And from what I understand, when people saw that in theaters, that was a big shock and a big surprise to see something like that on screen for the first time. Number 6 on my list is the monster from Cloverfield. And people have called it Clover or Clovey or whatever. But I thought this was also a very unique film in the way it was done as a found footage film of a giant monster invasion. but also just an original looking monster. They didn't go for a typical like reptile or a simian like King Kong. They went for something totally different, and like it's almost hard to even describe what the monster from Cloverfield is. And since you only get a glimpse of his whole body maybe once or twice in the whole film. And what also is great about this creature is, from what I understand from the production, is the designer of the monster was saying that his idea for the monster is it's just an infant or a baby that's like just hatched from an egg or something like that, and it's scared and looking for his mama, and just wondering what's going on. Why are all these little things or whatever shooting at it and dropping bombs on it? So anyone who knows actual animal behavior knows that that's when a monster is scared, or not a monster, but just an animal. When an animal is scared, it can be very dangerous, and that's something of that size. Being scared is not a good thing, especially not for the city and property damage and people in general. Number 5 on my list is one of the greatest, King Kong. And King Kong is something that I've been watching since I was really, really little. Like, I watched the original black and white version on VHS, and then, I enjoyed the Peter Jackson version. And I think I even, like, when I was a kid, I actually made my own, like, King Kong comic book out of, like, scrap paper and construction book paper. So I've been a King Kong lover for a long time. And I just enjoyed the story of this monster, giant monster living on this island of monsters, and he's the king of all those monsters because he kicks their ass on a daily basis. Of course, he's foiled because, he gets soft and falls in love with this human woman, and they take him off the island, and once he's taken out of his element, he's just done for, and he winds up getting killed. That's a good lesson for a lot of guys out there. Don't get too soft on a pretty face. It can lead you into trouble. Number 4 on my list is the Cyclops. Specifically, the Cyclops from Ray Harryhausen's The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Now, usually in Greek mythology, when they portray the Cyclops, it's just a big giant guy with one eye in the middle of his head. But Harryhausen, using his imagination, did something a little bit different. He created a Cyclops that, had kind of like this orangey, scaly skin, had these like underbite fangs, had a horn sticking out of its head, had these claw-like hands with just 3 fingers on it, and had like these weird hairy goat legs. So he just went all out. It wasn't just your typical, I'm a giant with one eye. These Cyclopses were very original. And, just the way they were animated with that stop motion, it was great. And they had a very original roar as well. If you ever see it, it's just something I always think about as a kid. I just loved the way they looked, the way they sounded. I loved the fact that he had them fighting other monsters and fighting dragons and whatnot. Just a great film. I would advise everyone to see it, even if you're not an artist or animator. But animators will appreciate it even more because these guys had to sit and move these creatures step by step to get them to look right. Number 3 is another Harryhausen monster, and that is the Kraken. Now, I like the Kraken from the original Clash of the Titans, but I also like the one that was in the remake of Clash of the Titans. And as a matter of fact, I would say that's the only thing that I liked about that Kraken or that movie was just the Kraken. Because everything else about that movie was kind of lame to me, and I didn't like the story. But the Kraken itself is just, for me, it's just a beautiful thing. And just to hear a powerful voice like Zeus or someone just saying, release the Kraken, like that is one of my favorite lines in cinema. But the Kraken is not just a beast from the ocean, but he's like a force of nature. And if you actually read some of the Greek mythology, the Kraken is they're very vague in its description. So, the way that it's been designed and portrayed in film has been different from what is actually in the text. You can almost kind of go with what you want. Some people just think it's a giant octopus, but I'm glad Ray Harryhausen had the insight to go farther than that and make it almost like half humanoid, half tentacle creature. And the newer one, he almost has kind of like a mollusk type ideal to him, like he has like a crab shell over his head, and he has like a turtle head that pops out or whatever. It's very original, but he also has the tentacles and the crab hands and claws and whatnot. So I've always enjoyed the creature. One of my favorites, and one of the reasons I designed one of my toy characters, the Lagoony Crab, which appears on my DeviantArt page as well. Number 2 of my favorite monsters are Zoonoids. Now, Zoonoids are these humanoid creatures from the anime known as Bio Booster Armor Guyver. So for those who probably don't know what Zoonoids are, it's probably very few people that would know it just off the top of their head, because it's not a popular monster. It's only from a specific anime show. But the Zoonoids they also would shapeshift. As a matter of fact, in the Guyver mythos, they said that that's where people got the ideas of werewolves and vampires. They're actually Zoonoids. So Zoonoids were they were like the soldiers of this evil corporation known as Kronos. And what I liked about them is they had different, how do I want to say it? They had different versions of each Zoonoid, and they had different levels to them. Like, they were like just the regular Zoonoids at the bottom, like remote cheese, almost kind of like a hairy Bigfoot. They had like Gregol, who was like this giant green lizard-like with horns, like a dinosaur. They had Vamor, who was this weird-looking lizard type, but he had like these bioorganic lasers on his shoulders. Then you go up to the next level with like the Hyperzoonoids, like Zectol and Durzer and Elegant. And they all have these weird special powers. I like how Zectol looks like a giant scarab beetle. And he can even level up himself when he can combine with other Zoonoids. And just the way these creatures look, they're all very original designs. Like I before I saw Guyver, I had never seen anything like that. They put the designer and the creator, Yoshiki Takeya, put a lot into the way those monsters look. And number 1 on my list is, of course, the king of all monsters, a title that's greatly deserved, and that's Godzilla. And just like King Kong, I've been a fan of Godzilla ever since I was a little kid. And, you know, as a kid, what's not to like about a giant fire-breathing lizard? I mean, he's not even just breathing fire, he's breathing nuclear-powered blast on other monsters and on your city. And one of the things I've always liked about Godzilla is just the way his face looks. Because for the most part, Godzilla, when he's done right, there's been different suits over the years, but for me, the best Godzilla, he looks angry. And that's one of the things I always liked about him, that he's definitely not a happy creature. He always looks pissed off. And like he's ready to, you know, just kick someone's behind. And even in like the more silly Godzilla movies, he's almost kind of devious and just mean-spirited. Like there, you know, when he did like the more silly Godzilla movies, he's picking on other monsters and whatnot. And he like kind of abuses his son to make him do stuff. But even in the more serious versions of Godzilla, what I love about him is he's just an unstoppable force of nature. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing in this new version that's being done by Legendary Studios. So I'm hoping they get it right. I've seen pictures of his face, and he does look angry. So I'm happy about that. And he looks mad, and looks like he's ready to fight. So that's the main thing, is I want to see Godzilla destroying some cities, possibly destroying some other monsters. I've heard rumors of other monsters in the movie, so hopefully that's true. And hopefully they do more of him. And I like the way he looks. I like the scale of him. And I'm just one big monster lover. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section about my list. Let me know what monsters you guys like. And, you know, if you want to check out this artwork and more crazy crossovers, go to my DeviantArt page at CHRISCRAZYHOUSE.deviantart and check it out. Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.